No one disrespects Thomas Shelby. Not because he shouts. Because he never needs to. On a rainy evening in Manhattan, the Shelby Grand Hotel glowed like a lighthouse. Marble floors, golden lights, a pianist drifting through soft blues. The doors opened, and a small, tired woman shuffled in. Gray coat, old suitcase, a face that had seen long roads. She paused on the mat and let the rain slide off her sleeves. Water beaded on the brass revolving door and pooled around her shoes. The doorman glanced up, then down, unsure. Tourists flowed around her like a current around a rock. She stood very still, catching her breath, steadying her hands. She walked to the front desk. "May I sit a while? I'm meeting my granddaughter." "I'm early," she said, using that careful tone people use when they're trying not to be a problem. The front desk manager, Elliot King, didn't look up. He straightened a stack of folios and watched his reflection in the black marble counter. "This is a 5-star property. Lobby is for guests only." She smiled, hopeful. "I can buy tea. I've got enough for tea." He sighed, the kind of sigh that nudges people toward the door. "Not today. Security will show you the exit." A couple pretending not to watch suddenly cared very much about their phones. A bellhop shifted, uncomfortable, then fixed his gaze on the revolving door. The pianist missed a note, recovered, and played softer. A housekeeper with a cart paused near a column, eyes tight with worry. The woman's coat had a stitched repair at the elbow. Her gloves were thin, the kind you wear when you don't plan to be outside long. The old suitcase had stickers from bus depots and one faded tag that said, "Queens." She held it with both hands, like a promise she couldn't afford to drop. By a marble column stood a man in a charcoal coat, hands in pockets, eyes like winter. He had the stillness of someone who had learned to outwait storms. He moved. Quiet. Precise. He lifted the old suitcase, careful as if it were glass. "You'll sit," he told the woman, "and you'll have tea." "Sir, do not interfere," Elliot snapped, a crack in an otherwise polished room. He flicked 2 fingers toward the security desk. A radio clicked alive. The guards glanced up. The man didn't blink. He took the woman's elbow as if escorting royalty and guided her to a velvet chair near the window. Rain braided down the tall glass panes, turning the city lights into watercolor streaks. He set the suitcase by her feet, straightened the cushion beneath her, and nodded once, as if the world had been corrected by a millimeter. The piano stopped. The rain didn't. It tapped the glass like 1,000 small decisions. The lobby held its breath. "Sir," Elliot said, closing the distance, chin up, smile thin. "House rules. I'm sure you understand." "She's waiting for family," the man said. His voice was calm, unhurried. "That makes her our guest." "That's not how it works," Elliot replied. "We can't have," he gestured vaguely, meaning, people like her. "We have a brand to protect." A young server from the lounge hovered, eyes moving between Elliot and the man. She balanced a tray against her hip. "I can bring tea," she offered, too quietly. Elliot shot her a warning look. "No." The man turned his head, slowly, to the server. "2 teas," he said. "And soup." The server hesitated only a heartbeat, then slipped away, steps quick and sure. A concierge pretended to make a phone call and watched from behind a vase of lilies. The doorman took one careful step closer, as if proximity could be a kind of protection. The woman folded her hands around nothing, as if holding a cup that hadn't yet arrived. "I won't be long," she whispered. "Just till she comes." Elliot's nameplate caught the light. Elliot King, front office manager. He squared his shoulders, trained smile returning. "Sir, if you insist on breaking policy, I'll have to ask you both to leave." The man rested his palms on the back of the velvet chair. A drop of rain fell from his sleeve onto the carpet and vanished. "You'll have to do more than ask," he said, almost politely. Somewhere outside, a horn called through the wet night. Inside, warmth felt suddenly conditional, as if the room were waiting to learn who it truly belonged to. The pianist lifted his hands, unsure whether to play. The guards shifted their weight. The lilies gave off a clean, green smell. The server reappeared with a teapot and a small bowl of lemon slices. She set them down with hands that didn't shake. "Careful, it's hot," she told the woman. "Thank you," Love, the woman said, voice steady now. She looked at the man in the charcoal coat. You're very kind. He didn't answer. He didn't need to.
Name? The man asked gently. He had lowered himself to her eye level, the brim of his charcoal coat shedding rain in a slow, steady drip. His voice was low, steady, an anchor dropped in a choppy sea. Rose, she said. I came a day early. Bus was faster than I thought. She tried to smile, as if arriving early were a kind of good news. Her fingers worried the frayed handle of the old suitcase. Up close, her eyes were bright and tired, both at once. He nodded to a young staffer nearby. 2 teas, please, and soup. The staffer, Maya, had been hovering near the lounge rail, caught between rules and instinct. She chose instinct. Yes, sir, she said, already moving. She slipped through the lobby curtain like a dancer, dodging a rolling suitcase, a burst of umbrellas, a flurry of concierge maps. No questions, just kindness. The order landed in the kitchen with a weight that made the line cook glance up and hurry. Elliot stormed over with 2 security guards. His polished shoes punched small, angry reflections into the marble. Sir, you can't seat non-guests. This is not a shelter. The guards lingered pace behind him. Big men made bigger by crossed arms. They weren't cruel, just accustomed to being the last word in a room. The man looked at the guards. Calm, steady, then make her a guest. For words, and the room's center of gravity shifted. The guard's arms uncrossed. The housekeeper by the column stopped, pushing her cart. The doorman took one breath. He didn't know he'd been holding. Elliot laughed, a dry sound. With whose money? Yours. He tapped the man's shoulder. Too familiar, too confident. Let's go. The man placed a black card on the table. The kind that is weight. It didn't flash. It thudded. No numbers on the front. No need. Put the suite on this, he said, and anything else she needs. Elliot rolled his eyes. Fake flex. We see this every week. He tilted the card with 2 fingers, testing, as if it might peel like a sticker. Sir, I'm not swiping a novelty. Maya returned with tea and set a napkin on Rose's lap. It was a small, practiced kindness of somebody who'd done this for a grandmother 1,000 times. You're safe here, she whispered, making the words a promise. Rose's shoulders eased. The steam rose soft and lemon bright. Her hands steadied around the thin porcelain like it was a hearth. The man lifted his gaze and spoke low, almost bored. Call upstairs. Ask for the owner. The sentence hung in the lobby like a chandelier crystal catching light. The owner. The floor that most staff never saw. Elliot smirked, eager to end the theater. He snapped a number on the desk phone, one reserved for urgent matters, which mostly meant people like him needing reassurance. The switchboard answered on the first ring. Executive level. Put me through to the owner, Elliot said, crisp. A pause. Then name? Elliot King. Front office. I've got someone claiming. Hold, Mr. King. There was no music, only the faint hush of an office where the carpets were thicker and the clock slower. Elliot glanced at the black card again, a tremor he tried to call annoyance. He looked up at the man, meaning to sneer, to win. The man watched him, expressionless, hands in his pockets like patience was a habit and not a choice. The line clicked. A new voice, cool and precise. This is the owner's office. Elliot straightened. I have a situation in the lobby. A gentleman insisting on. Are you with him now? Yes. Then listen carefully, Mr. King, the voice said. You will accommodate his requests. Elliot's mouth opened, then closed. I'm not sure you understand. He's attempting to. Mr. King, the voice said, closer now, somehow. You're speaking about Mr. Shelby. The color drained from Elliot's face, so quickly it felt like the room had changed temperature. He glanced at the man, then at the card, as if they had both rearranged themselves while he was on hold. On an invisible cue, the guard stepped back. Their eyes softened. One cleared his throat, suddenly very interested in the pattern of the carpet. A bellhop adjusted his cap. Somewhere behind the lilies, the concierge put down the phone and stood a little straighter. The pianist started again, softer this time, as if even the music knew what was coming and chose respect as its key. The notes fell like rain made gentle, a sound that said, "Settle, sit, we will do this properly." Elliot swallowed. "Understood," he whispered to the voice. Then, into the room, louder than he meant, "Understood." He placed the phone down carefully, as if it might burn him, and tried to find a smile. It didn't arrive. Maya poured tea. The cup clinked against the saucer, a tiny, bright bell. Rose looked from the man to the manager and back again, trying to decode a language that didn't require words. The man, Thomas Shelby, didn't gloat. He didn't move much at all. He simply slid the black card closer to Elliot with 2 fingers. "The suite," he said, "City View, and the doctor for a cough." This time, nobody argued. The elevator doors slid open with a soft bell. The general manager hurried out. Ty Askew, face pale, moving like a man who'd run 6 floors and only remembered to breathe at the end. "Mr. Shelby," he said, voice shaking, "we weren't expecting you." The lobby went still, the way a lake goes still when the wind stops. The man in the charcoal coat, Thomas Shelby, the #1 hotel owner in the USA, rested a hand on Rose's shoulder. The gesture was light, steady, the way you touch something you mean to protect. "Good evening," Thomas said. "Your manager tried to remove my guest." Elliot stared, words failing him as if his mouth had misplaced them. A ripple of awareness moved through the staff. Bellhop, concierge, housekeeper, security. The general manager swallowed. "I'm so sorry, sir." Thomas didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Give Rose a suite with a city view," he said, like he was reading from a list that had always existed. "Fresh clothes. Warm meal. A doctor to check that cough. And please call her granddaughter." He tapped the black card once with fingertip. "Everything under her name. She's not a favor. She's our guest." The general manager nodded hard, already signaling with his hands. The concierge reached for the phone. Housekeeping radioed upstairs. "Prepare a suite, turn down the lights, draw the curtains, extra blankets." Room service scribbled. "Chicken soup, toast, honey tea, sliced fruit." The lobby's machinery woke with purpose. He looked at Maya. "Thank you for the tea." The simplicity of it carried weight. To the general manager, "Promote her. Effective tonight." Maya's mouth parted. She blinked once, twice, then steadied herself. Around her, a few staff exchanged quick, bright glances. The general manager bobbed his head. "Yes, sir. I'll have HR process in the morning." Then Thomas faced Elliot. It wasn't dramatic. It was precise, like a surgeon turning to the next step. "You have 2 choices. You will apologize to Rose and the team you embarrassed. Then you will spend the night outside with our community partners, helping people who sleep on the street. Or you hand me your badge right now." Elliot trembled, pride melting into something smaller and truer. I'll go." "You'll help," Thomas corrected, eyes level. "And you'll learn." He didn't add a threat. He didn't need to. The outreach van would leave at 9. There would be hot soup that fogged the windows, folded coats in plastic bins, blankets stacked like soft bricks. There would be names learned, stories heard, and the long, humbling practice of looking someone in the eye and seeing them. He turned, speaking to the room. "This chain is built on one rule, respect. We do not judge a person by their shoes. We judge ourselves by our service." By order of Thomas Shelby. For a heartbeat, the sentence hung like a flag. Then the room exhaled. Phone slipped back into pockets. Spine straightened. The pianist found a gentle melody and let it wash the edges off the moment. "Ms. Rose," Elliot said, voice thin, standing a step from her chair. He looked smaller without his certainty. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. You are our guest." Rose looked up at him, then at Thomas, then back. "Apology accepted," she said softly. "Let's do better." Maya knelt to adjust Rose's coat, hand sure. "Your room will have a view of the river," she said with a smile. "We'll get you warm first." The concierge waved. Phone pressed his ear. Granddaughter's on her way. 20 minutes out. A housekeeper arrived with a garment bag, and a pair of soft slippers, the kind that make you remember your feet. A server set down a tray, broth steaming, honey glinting gold, lemon bright as a small sun. The doctor was already paged. The general manager drew closer to Thomas. Quieter now. We'll circulate the directive chain-wide by morning, he said. Respect. Service. No judgment. Thomas nodded once. Policy is what you do when no one's watching, he said. Tonight, everyone is. He lifted his hand from Rose's shoulder. The touch had said, you're safe. The space it left behind said, we'll keep it that way. The hotel breathed again, deeper, clearer, as if the building itself had remembered what was for. Night fell heavier, and Thomas didn't leave. He went with the outreach van, Maya, Elliot, 2 guards, and a trunk full of coats and hot soup. The wipers kept time like a metronome. Steam curled from paper lids. Rain tapped the roof as they drove under bridges and past neon diners. The city smeared into light and water, looking for people who needed warmth. They found a veteran first, sitting on a cold step outside a shuttered shop. His shoulders were hunched inside a thin jacket, a duffel at his feet, boots cracked white at the creases. Evening, Thomas said, hands visible, voice level. Evening. The man replied, wary but polite. Name? Maya asked. Hector. Maya crouched, her umbrella sheltering both of them. Hector, we got soup, dry socks, a wool coat. Hector's eyes softened at dry socks, the magic words. Elliot knelt beside Maya, a little awkward, rain darkening his trousers. He eased off Hector's boots, handed him a towel, then new socks like an offering. How are you? Elliot asked, and for once he meant it. Hector looked him in the eye. Cold, he said, a small smile, but seen. The van rolled on. Under an overpass, they met a mother with a sleeping toddler. Cheeks flushed, fingers clenched around a stuffed rabbit. The mother's name was Ava. She kept glancing at the dark edges of the street, like the night might change its mind. You need a place for tonight, Thomas said, not as a question. Ava nodded, shame and relief wrestling in her face. Maya took her hand. We'll get you somewhere safe. Thomas called the partner's shelter himself. Family room, he said. Now. He covered the phone. Elliot, ride with them. Make sure check-in is smooth. Pay for a week. A week? Ava breathed, a sob that wasn't quite a sob. I can figure things out in a week. You will, Thomas said, and we'll help. At a bus stop, they met a teenager clutching a backpack like armor, hood up, eyes bright with a mix of fear and stubbornness. Name, Jay. He didn't want soup. He wanted a chance. Got ID? One guard asked gentle. Jay bristled. Thomas nodded to the guard. Enough? He turned to Jay. Can you be on time? Jay shrugged. The universal sign for maybe yes. For what? Work, Thomas said. Night shift, dishes, then training. Pays honest, rules are clear. Jay's chin lifted. You serious? Thomas held out a card with Maya's name and a number scrawled across it. 7 p.m. tomorrow. Lobby door. Ask for Maya. Jay tucked the card into his sock, where important things don't get stolen. I'll be there, he said like a vow. They moved through the wet city. Soup cups emptied, coats found new owners, names turned into faces that would be remembered. Elliot learned to ask before assuming. He learned to listen past the first answer. He learned that a clean pair of gloves could feel like a second chance. Back at the hotel near midnight, the lobby had changed. A handwritten sign leaned on the bar, thick marker letters steady and calm. Hot drinks for anyone who asks. No charge. T.S. The bartender brewed chamomile in kettles and kept the honey flowing. A busker from the corner of 49th, and Lex stood where the piano had been, his saxophone painting the room with gold notes. Music that warmed the windows from the inside out. In the corner, Rose ate soup and watched the rain turn to mist. Housekeeping had brought a cardigan that matched her eyes. Her suitcase sat beside her, newly wiped dry, the handle mended with a neat strip of tape. Thomas sat with her. Your granddaughter is on her way, he said. 20 minutes. Rose smiled, eyes bright in the low light. You remind me of my late husband, she said. Samuel. Made boots, didn't talk much. But when he did, the room got better. Thomas looked at his hands, then at the staff moving with new purpose. Maya organizing sign-up sheets for volunteers, a guard showing an older man where the free coffee was, Elliot returning with the shelter receipt tucked into his pocket like a lesson he meant to keep. Doing is the only language some people hear, he said. Rose nodded, and the only one some people trust. He glanced at the sign on the bar, the initials he rarely used. Policy could be printed, posted, framed. But the real thing lived in nights like this. Wet shoes, hot soup, steady eyes. You're kind, Rose said. Not soft. Kind. Those aren't opposites, Thomas replied. The saxophone slid into a lullaby. The lobby lights dimmed a shade, the city outside blurring into gray silk. For a moment, the hotel felt less like a business and more like a lighthouse, what it looked like from the street when Rose first stepped in from the rain. Samuel would have liked you, Rose said. Thomas tilted his head. Then I would have liked Samuel. He checked the time. Your granddaughter's almost here. Rose folded her hands. Breath easy now. Good, she murmured. I'd like her to see the world like this. Just once. Morning light cut through the skyline, slicing the towers into blades of gold. Traffic hummed awake. Coffee steamed from street carts. And on 1,000 screens, a single story spread. A hotel owner who didn't kick an old woman out but brought her in. Clips from shaky phones showed a charcoal coat, a steady hand, a cup of tea. People argued about whether it was strategy or heart. They didn't know the half of it. They didn't need to. Upstairs in a boardroom that smelled faintly of lemon and fresh ink, Thomas stood at a whiteboard. Executives lined the table with tablets and tired eyes, braced for a damage control meeting that never came. He uncapped a marker and wrote 3 lines, the squeak loud in the hush. Respect first. Service without judgment. Kindness is policy. He signed beneath it, T.S. No mission statement. No paragraph smoothed by lawyers. Just the operating system, rewritten. A VP cleared his throat, ready to ask about budgets. Thomas capped the marker and met his eyes. The cost of cruelty is higher, he said. Roll it out by noon. In the lobby, staff gathered for a quick huddle. The sign from last night, hot drinks for anyone who asks. No charge. Stayed where it was now laminated. A bar back taped the second line underneath. Ask how they're doing. Mean it. Maya handed out clipboards labeled coat and kindness. We'll train every shift, she said, voice steady, face still a little stunned. When in doubt, help. If we're wrong, we'll fix it kindly. Thomas found Elliot near the front desk. The manager's suit was wrinkled, his hair rain-ruffled, eyes ringed with the sleeplessness of someone who had learned something the hard way. I apologized, Elliot said, to Rose, to the team. I was wrong. Thomas studied him, then nodded once. Good. Keep proving it. He slid a card across the counter. Training schedule, outreach contacts, a list of shelters. You'll rotate nights with a van for a month. Then you'll teach what you learn. Same pay, more purpose. I'll do it, Elliot said, and for once it didn't sound like a performance. Mr. Shelby? Maya stepped closer, clutching a folder like it might float away. About the program budget? Start, Thomas said. Send me problems, not permission requests. Maya tucked a loose curl behind her ear and smiled with a kind of fierce relief. Copy that. The elevator chimed. A young woman rushed in, breathless, hair damp from the morning mist. I'm Elena, she told the concierge. I'm here for my grandmother. They led her to the lounge. Rose looked smaller in the big chair and somehow bigger than the whole lobby, bones wrapped in cardigan softness, eyes bright as coins. Elena dropped to her knees. Nana, I'm so sorry. The bus. I was early, Rose said, voice warm, and I was looked after. Elena stood to thank Thomas, words tangling with gratitude. He lifted a hand. Enjoy the view, he said. City looks kinder from up there. Housekeeping had already turned down the suite. Sun poured through floor-to-ceiling glass. A doctor's kit waited on the table. On the bed, a soft dress, a scarf the color of the river, a note in neat handwriting. Welcome, Rose. You're our guest. Maya. When the elevator doors closed on Rose and Elena, the doorman dabbed at his eye and pretended the morning breeze had gotten to him. A notification buzzed on Maya's phone. Ava and her toddler checked in safe. A second, Hector, the veteran, sent thanks and a picture of new socks dry on a radiator. She forwarded both to Elliot without comment. He stared at the screen a long time, then pocketed it like a promise. Outside, the air smelled of rain and bakery sugar. Thomas stepped into it. The doorman tipped his hat. Taxi horns braided into a kind of city hymn. A bus side to a stop down the block. Doors folding open allowed a man in a work jacket and a woman in a church dress, each carrying a morning that hadn't happened yet. Reporters would frame it as power, an owner flexing in his own lobby. They'd be wrong. It was about respect, the quiet kind that keeps its voice low and its actions loud, the kind that turned the lobby into a lighthouse and a company into a promise, the kind that catches small moments of disrespect and alchemizes them into policy, so the next moment doesn't have to be a test of character. By noon, the whiteboard lines lived on badges and break room posters, in pre-shift meetings and training videos. By evening, they lived in habits. A refill poured without asking, a chair pull. Out, a question asked and heard. And somewhere at 7 p.m., a teenager named Jay would walk through the lobby door, clutching a card with name on it, on time, ready. Because kindness, once put into motion, has a way of keeping its own appointments.